Just got back from baseball winter meetings. And one of the things that I wanted to do a show on was potential rule changes. We've seen them in the past, including last year when they banned the shift, the pitch clock, and some of the other stuff going on. Well, there's some more in the works, and I wanted to throw it out there for you guys and see what you thought. Also, I want you to be part of this channel, the Cubs Baseball channel. Like and subscribe. Let's get this thing going. Go Cubs. What do you say, everybody? I'm Mick Gillispie. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel at Broadcaster Mick on Twitter. And would love to have you join me there. And I'm glad that you're here with me right now. All right, let me get into this. Now, the biggest change that could potentially coming right out of the chute, I'm going to hit you with it, is there's talk of possibly making the baseball bigger. Think about that. Making the baseball bigger. How much bigger? I don't know. The issue that Major League Baseball is dealing with right now is strikeouts. And we've heard them say, hey, maybe we'll move the mound back. They had an issue in the late 60s where pitching was so dominant that they lowered the mound. That's something that I've heard them talk about a little bit as well. But this winter meetings, there was some talk about a bigger baseball. They want more contact and they want the ball put in play more. Think about it like this. Right now, we're like, what is it? Like around 23% of the outs are strikeouts. That's what Roger Clemens did in his career. He struck out, 23% of the batters. So everyone is Roger Clemens right now. And it's not good for the game. You want the ball put in play, and that brings, obviously more action. And the strikeouts have gotten to the point where it just really makes the game not as enjoyable. What are the reasons why, you may ask? And my theory is that when I was a kid coming up playing, we didn't have facilities where you went and learned from professional players. And then they started popping up in every single town, right? So a guy would be, a pro player, maybe a big leaguer, maybe a minor leaguer, but someone that really knew the game and would instruct, youth on how to pitch the ball the right way, how to throw the ball the right way, how to maximize velocity. I think that's a part of it. I just think pitching is a craft, and there's people that are better at the craft now than they were back then. And there's a lot more of them. And you're talking about travel ball and these guys that play baseball constantly. And it starts when you're a kid and then, goes all the way up through high school. And then you get drafted and, college baseball's benefited. It's a much better game now than it was 10 or 15 years ago because the players have gotten so much better at playing the game. It's expensive to play, but players are better at it. I think the nutrition part of it, the strength part of it, that is a factor in this as well. And I think the hitters do it to themselves. They banned the shift because players couldn't adjust to put the ball in play where no one was. So you'd have a guy come up, they look at a spray chart, they know where he's going to hit the ball. The old-time superstar players like Pete Rose would have said, hey, just move around in the box. If you move where you're at in the box, maybe change the weight of your bat, you'd hit the ball differently. And they're not going to know that. But players refuse that. They want to hit a home run. They want to hit the ball in the air. And a lot of times they strike out instead of making contact. So that's the first change that look for it to be tested. And I don't think that one's going to be tested in the minor leagues. I bet that's tested in somewhere like the Atlantic League. That seems to be where the biggest changes take place first is in the Atlantic League. So it's not an affiliated league. And then, they have a deal with Major League Baseball. But it might be another one of those leagues. Who knows? I just thought, like, when I heard bigger baseball, to me, I'm like, okay, was this softball we're doing here? I mean, is that a real potential change? That'd be a blockbuster move. obviously, if they change the size of the baseball. The second one is the pitch clock. And I think of all the changes that we had last year, people all seem to be united that the pitch clock was a great idea. And I think the reason why is that with the pitch clock, the games are faster. People got tired of sitting in the stadiums for 3.5 hours and listening to walk-up songs and seeing guys adjust their things and pitchers taking off, getting ready to throw, and mound visits, which they limited. So they knew that they had to speed the game up to make it more interesting, and interest was back in baseball this past season, and people all seem to like the pitch clock. They're going to tweak that pitch clock even more to make the game a little bit faster. So look at that. And I'm sure it's just going to be a couple of seconds here and there. But now that they know it works, I think that it makes sense to just try to get it perfect, right? Another change. How many times have you watched baseball and there's a dribbler out in front of the plate and the catcher picks it up and he throws to first and they call then the ball ends up in the outfield and they call the base runner out because he was running straight up the line, and the baseline is actually like kind of weird. Like you got to kind of run out of the way a little bit, Apparently they're looking at changing that, making that make a little bit more sense as far as the path up to first base, maybe widening that path a little bit. That's probably a good idea. And just be a little bit more creative on those throws to first. But, I wonder if guys start bunting more and try to put the ball down where it makes a tough angle on that throw to first. Although I wouldn't want to get smoked like that. But I think a lot of us, like by the ball on the throw, I think a lot of us, though, felt like that was a rule that was so strange. And it's hard to even know where the baseline is at first. Basically, I guess it's just running the dirt, right? So they're talking about widening the baseline. Here's another one that I think we're going to see sooner than later. And I'm excited about this one. I've been all about the robot automated strike zone because I've seen so many games in my life, in my career, that have been ruined by bad home plate umpires. Just sorry. I mean, plain and simple, right? And when baseball finally instituted instant replay, I was celebrating because I just want the calls to be right. Now, some of the unintended consequences are the neighborhood play at second base, which to me, it's one of those plays where you're just trying not to get guys hurt. Now they obviously you have to touch the base. And then when guys like barely slide off the bag and they're being tagged out, sometimes I just look at that and shake my head. That's not what I was thinking when we were doing this. It was some of these egregious umpiring mistakes that they make. And, I'm not picking on umpires. I know it's a very difficult job, but if you have the technology, why wouldn't you use it? So that's why I'm excited about the automated strike zone. Now, they used an automated strike zone in AAA, and I heard from some former Smokies pitchers that are in AAA that it wasn't really as good as I would have thought. The strike zone was too narrow, and because of that, they would miss the corners. And then they widened it out, and they kind of felt like it was just better with the umpires. So what baseball is doing now, and this could be the answer to that, is you can challenge balls and strikes. And I don't know how many challenges, maybe you get 3. I don't know why you would, maybe if you get 3 and you get them right, you keep getting them. I don't know. I think that there's games where I've seen umpires miss as many as 10 or 15 strikes. So I hope it's not limited to just 3. But with that said, it'd be like in a tennis match, when they it's a ball down the line and then they put the graphic on the scoreboard and they watch the automation. They're going to be able to do that too. And this probably is going to be better. It's good for the umpires because you could still have them behind the plate calling the balls and strikes. And it's good for the teams because when a bad pitch happens, they miss a call, you can go and challenge it. And hopefully if you get it right, you keep having them so that you can hold the umpires accountable and make the game a little bit fairer with the balls and strikes. So that's something to keep an eye on. And then I think it's a cool thing too, that it works with the scoreboards at the stadiums. So you'll be able to kind of, watch that in real time. Like, oh, okay, yeah. And as soon as they get this thing figured out, I know that they want to have that in the major leagues. And I'm excited about that. Not to say that the umpires in the major leagues are bad. I think a lot of them are good. But the problem is you don't always have your best guy behind the plate. I mean, think about when Angel Hernandez is behind the plate. He's just not good. And you watch the games and he misses strikes all the time. And you shake your head and go, hey, how is this guy back there, right? Well, maybe he's just a bad ball and strikes umpire. And you have this and you can appeal it and all of a sudden you don't notice him. And maybe he's good at other stuff that that isn't as egregious as missing these balls and strikes. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys here on the Cubs Baseball channel. I want to remind you that the channel right now is presented by the Tennessee Smokies Team Store. They won their first championship in 45 years. And they want you to go and pick up some swag, smokiesbaseball.com/team store. And also our friend Chad Anderson at Modern Lending. He does a lot more than just mortgages. He's helped over 1,000 families and businesses in his time. He's also an investment consultant and an Airbnb expert, but his phone number is on the screen, and you can get him at This Chad is real. And I get that wrong every single time. I need to get better glasses, I guess. This Chad is real. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. Tell me what you think about rule changes and what you'd like to see or what you don't want to see. And isn't it crazy to think that they may change the size of the baseball? Will we notice a bigger baseball if they really do this? I mean, I'm guessing it'd be like, if you were going to make it big enough to make a difference with strikeouts, how big is that? And what's that going to do to the guys throwing the baseball? Are you still going to be able to throw it with as much velocity if it's bigger? That may be why they want to do it as well. How's this ball going to move? All right, get into that. I want to hear from you guys in the comments section. Again, if you're not part of the Cubs Baseball channel, make sure that you do it right now. Go Cubs.